Hey guys, it's Kumi here. I'm starting off the second story with a creepypasta called Never Stop Running. I haven't really seen anyone finish the series on Never Stop Running, and I've always wondered about that. So, I'm going to try to do that. Alright, let's get this started. Dear Mom, I know it's not really the norm for people to send handwritten letters anymore, since we have email, meeting face-to-face, and the all-powerful cell phone, but I wanted to switch things up. Plus I had a few postage stamps, and I figured that you'd be expecting a letter from me, sooner or later. So, I have a confession to make. I haven't been completely honest with you over the last couple months. College has been great, but some very serious things have happened that have forced me to make some very grave choices. Going back to the beginning, I was pretty angry with Kyle when he didn't let me take any of our game systems to college. It's not like we don't own every single Nintendo system that they made. The Sans Virtual Boy, of course. I need my eyes to study. If I wanted to blame him, I could, but I don't. Video games were such a huge part of our childhood that I'm surprised that he didn't get more violent when I tried to sneak out the NES with me. In hindsight, that was a stupid decision anyway. I don't have a TV to play it on, nor do I have the money to buy more games for it. What am I going to do? Accept a copy of the game I'm looking for from some random old guy on the street for free? I'm way too familiar with these stories floating around on the internet. Yes, never look into these stories unless you want to be truly disturbed. So, being the typical money-deprived college student with no TV, I went online and downloaded the ZSNES. If you're unfamiliar with the ZSNES, it's an emulator that allows you to play video games on it, on your computer. Download it from the internet, as though you were playing it on a console. Pretty convenient for me. Anyway, the game I love more than anything, as I'm sure you're aware of, or from how much I used to play it, it was Super Mario World. The reason I tried to sneak out the SNES at all, being unfamiliar with ROMs, I asked one of my roommates experienced with emulators where I could find a decent ROM of Super Mario World. We got me to a ROM hustler, and when I finally downloaded it and unzipped them and copied the ROM to a permanent folder, I was pleasantly surprised to discover that the ROM came with a bunch of hacks in the cartridge. I was under the impression that you had to search these hacks out. For a while I tested out the first world of each hack, trying to determine which hacks were worth keeping and which hacks I should just delete. Some of the hacks only changed the first world, and the rest of the game either didn't exist or was a carbon copy of the original. This went on normally for a month, and then I found myself at one very strange hack, simply called Run. Creeped out, I deleted it immediately. I recently heard the story about Solid.exe, and I couldn't get the Kefka sound effect out of my head. I was not taking any chances. Like I said before, I forget I ever mentioned these stories. Needing to clear my head, I left the rec complex for an hour or two. When I came back, I went to the folder of hacks to only discover that Run had somehow been restored. Confused, I went to check the recycle bin, only to find that run was still there. So I had somehow copied it had somehow copied the back to the original folder. This should have sent up red flags. Deciding that I might as well see what it was like. But only the first level, I promised myself. I started up the ZNES and loaded up the hack. Shockingly, the first flow was entirely normal. As in, the hack creator didn't change anything. Okay, I thought to myself. This might as well be my normal game. Level after level turned out to be the exact same as the original game. Being a completionist that I am, I had to get to the single exit in the game. Oddly, I was able to get to the Soda Lake before the last stage in the special world. Something I was never able to do before. So heading into the final stage, I was prepared for it. Being similar to the original, like the rest of the game. Wishful thinking on my part. As I started the level, Mario Start popped up onto the black screen. The first thing I noticed was a lack of music. The game was completely silent, except for the jumping sound effect. And the only thing that appeared on the screen besides Mario was a message block. No bushes, no clouds, or coins. Not even a timer. The game wouldn't even let me progress to the right. So naturally, the only thing left to do was hit the message block. The block came up on the screen and sent chills down my spine as I read it. If you stop, you die. Finally, the game would let me continue. As soon as the message block was off the screen, the level turned into a scroller, where you either keep moving right, avoiding everything in your path, or you get crushed between the left side of the screen and whatever is preventing you from progressing. Annoyed, since side-scroller levels are my least favorite type of level in Mario games. Yes, even underwater levels. I resolved to keep going until I beat the level, and by extension, the game. For the first 5 minutes or so, nothing appeared in front of me. I was just running on flat ground. I figured that this was a push in the right direction to win the level. But after 10 minutes, I began to get annoyed. Does this level ever end? It was at that exact moment that the scroll speed started to get faster. It took me by surprise after 10 minutes of absolutely zilch happening. The game got progressively faster and faster, to the point that even running at full speed, I was barely ahead of the side screen. Finally, the end gate appeared. After I broke the gate, two things ran through my mind in rapid succession. The first thing was I finally beat the hack. But then I realized that the stage didn't stop scrolling. Sure, Mario kept running at the speed I had him running at, but the end of the level should have signaled that the level should stop scrolling. At the very least, slow down. Then I remembered in horror at the very end of every level, Mario stopped the turn to the player and flashed a peace sign before going to the next level, praying to God that Mario wouldn't stop like he normally did. My fears were confirmed. As he stopped, a wall appeared in front of him. I watched in horror as he was crushed between the wall, and that had that had just appeared in front of him on the left side of the screen. There was something comical, yet so disturbing about watching Mario try to walk through the wall, as if it weren't even there. That I was completely unprepared for the sound of Mario's bones being grounded between the walls. This wasn't a normal Mario death, where he makes the funny face and falls off the screen. It was so gruesome. It was so gruesome it unnerved me that my hands started to shake. The time up screen appeared, only instead of time up, it said, "You stopped running." I closed out the game, wondering what the hell had happened. Because music typically calms me down, I opened up iTunes, hoping some music would help me relax. When my library loaded all the files and all my files had been renamed. You stopped running. Double clicking anything about the 2000 songs produced the same horrific noise that I had heard upon Mario's death in the game. In fact, every single file on my computer had been renamed "You Stop Running," and none of them worked like they should. My emotions went from fear to anger, as I assumed the hack had planted a virus on my computer. If it was just a virus, that would have been the end of it. Side note, the only reason I didn't tell you about the corruption of my hard drive is because I didn't want you to worry about how much of a new computer was going to cost. About a week passed without incident, and my mind eventually moved from the corrupted hack. For a time, inevitably through my mind, it went back to the strange hack. Late one Saturday night, I was sitting at my desk working on homework and eyeing my computer suspiciously. I had antivirus. Why didn't it stop the virus? Suddenly I heard something hit the hard window out of my window as the car drove by. Assuming it was just a rock thrown by the tire of the car, I pulled the blinds to survey the damage. What I found, I cannot explain. The window was cracked in such a way that it spelled "run," but not in English. These letters were acrylic, which cemented in my mind the thought of this was a personal message for me. Since I have been studying Russian for the last year, usually I don't believe in coincidences, but I tried to write this off as one. There was no way that this could be related to something that happened on my computer. At least. That's what I kept telling myself. I needed to get my mind off of this and onto something else. A floor above me lives one of my housemates, who happens to own a dog. A beautiful 4-month-old Australian Shepherd puppy. Figuring she was asleep, I peeked into the room, and sure enough, she was. Flipping on the light, one door to her kennel, she opened up reluctantly and walked over to me. Still eager to be petted at 5:30 in the morning, and then wiggling her butt. Since the Australian Shepherds don't have tails, I petted her, threw the tennis ball around, fed her, watered her, and then I started feeling drowsy. I put her back in the cage, flipping off the light. I had no sooner shut the door and started down the stairs when I heard an unearthly sound coming from the room. I hesitated, not sure whether or not I wanted to check the room. Eventually, my mind forced me back up the room. When I turned the lights on, the dog was on its side in the kennel, eyes wide open, staring blankly into the distance. She wasn't moving. Racing over to her, tears flooding down my face, as if I tried in vain to find a pulse. I had read somewhere that you can perform CPR on a pet, much in a way that you can perform on a person. And so I tried and tried. I tried so hard to save the dog, but it was useless. When I lay her on her backside, I saw that same pattern from the window, as a coloration on her fur. Something I know with 100% certainty wasn't there before. And furiously, I kicked the sofa as hard as I could and had to grit my teeth to keep myself from screaming. Waking up 32 guys at 5:30 in the morning would not have gone well. And there was nothing they could do for the dog. In the state of hysteria, I went back to my room, put my head on my desk, and cried for a good hour or two. After that, I went up to the second floor when absolutely necessary. I can only assume that the owner, who happens to be a vet student, couldn't find a cause of death, since I apparently killed her. I had tried my hardest to not lose every time he talked to me. I even threw up a couple of times. I couldn't eat half the time. And when I did, most of the time, it wouldn't stay down. This wasn't something that Tums could cure. These images of real life, real death, were burned into my mind. I just wanted them out. So yeah, you know how I lost 12 pounds this month. My health was deteriorating quickly. And then if you can imagine, I actually got worse because I started imagining what I had done to the dog happening into a person. It didn't matter if it was a complete stranger or my best friend. And the thought of being the death of anyone terrified me immensely. It was only a matter of time. I couldn't let it happen. And then something suddenly clicked. The word run wasn't haunting me because I failed the level of the hack. It was haunting me because I hurt people. I was trying desperately to escape from the fact that, but I never could. Or could I? Anyway, if this letter gets to you before then, I promise to make sure to get an open casket. I won't swallow a gun or anything like that. Most likely it will be pills. Colorful pills that I was prescribed to via the infection in my foot. If this letter gets to you afterwards, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't tell you sooner. I am sorry that my death seemed senseless at the time. The last thing I would want you to think is I committed suicide for selfish reasons. But maybe I did. Maybe I did it for someone else's sake, or just to ease the guilt that I might feel if I did hurt someone close to me. Either way, perhaps the fact that I tried to be noble in my death can ease your pain. If so, ever slightly, I can only hope. Bro, you'll face a lot of adversity in your lifetime. You don't run from it, stand up, face it, power through it. You will come out a better man. I'm sorry that I didn't get to spend more time with you, but you two gave me the best 20 years of my life. I love you always, son, brother, Jesse. About 3 days after Kala and I got the letter, we had the funeral. It wasn't supposed to be much of anything special, but more people showed up than Jesse would have ever imagined. He's always believed himself to be the lone wolf, but it probably is the same unselfish flame that drove him to this, that he won so many loyal friends. Ironically, the casket had a little storage compartment to put keepsakes in, and Kyle put the SNES game in it. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Whether they were together, Kyle and Jesse always had a sense of humor that could always be described as cynical, especially when playing video games. I don't think the loss will fully hit us until the summer. Right now, it just feels like he's still at college. About a week after, I had to make a trip up to his college to gather his belongings. I spent an entire 2-hour drive figuring out how to keep it together when I got consoling remarks from his roommates. Kyle wanted to come, but I wouldn't let him. He had school, for him, and going to school would help him get back to a sense of normalcy, even if he wouldn't be able to focus. Once I got to the house, I pulled into the parking lot, thinking I was prepared for anything. Then, what appeared to be a house member opened the door for me and passed in front of my car, walking a small Australian Shepherd puppy. I spent through the rest of the day on autopilot, numb, trying to figure out exactly what was going on. I thought the letter said the dog died. It unnerved me so much that I couldn't even pick up any of his things. All that way for closure, and all I found was more questions. Once Kyle got home from school, I asked him if he found the hack. Yeah, he said. Confused, I found the zip he downloaded. The run hack isn't there. So that's where our study ends. We couldn't find out anything else. I'm really not even sure if I wanted to. We'll probably never know what really happened to Jesse over the last few months of his life. Maybe that's for the best. All I can say is that I've never been more proud of my son than I am now. Alright. Thanks guys for listening. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. If you liked it, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. That's all that we have for today. I'll try to get the next part out as soon as possible. Alright. Kumi out.